Well, let me just say this right off the bat. Division One college athletics is on the brink. Not collapsing tomorrow and not ending overnight, but the warning signs are everywhere. Schools are losing tens of millions of dollars every year. Student fees are going up, and universities are restructuring budgets. Donors are being asked to give more and more, and the model keeps getting more expensive. And this isn't about one school and it's not about one conference. It's about whether the way we run college athletics right now can actually last. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. If the richest schools in college sports are losing money every year, the system underneath them is in trouble. And once you see the numbers, you can't unsee them. So before we go any further, I want to help you. And if you're a parent or student athlete trying to navigate recruiting right now, the first thing you need is clarity and not hype. So start with my free college recruiting Jumpstart Pack. It walks you through the recruiting process in the correct order so you're not guessing, reacting, or chasing rumors. You can grab it in the link below in my bio or at keithmondillo.com. But before we get started, my name's Keith Mondillo, and I'm in my 31st year in college athletics, all of it at the Division III level as a head basketball coach and director of athletics. And I want to be clear. I'm not sitting inside a Power 4 athletic department, and I'm not cashing those Big Ten checks, and I'm not selling exposure. What I've done for the 3 decades that I've been in college athletics is live inside athletic department budgets, roster decisions, NCAA legislation, and university level decision making. And I can say this without hesitation. I've never seen athletic departments operate at this level of financial stress. Never. The closest comparison I can make is our national debt. Every year the number grows, costs compound, and everyone assumes someone else will deal with it later. But someone always pays. And once you understand who that someone is, the recruiting conversations change. Now, this is why Rutgers' story matters. Last week, Rutgers released internal athletic financial numbers. And once those numbers became public, this stopped being opinion and started being about math. And here are the facts. Rutgers Athletics spent about $194 million last year. They generated about $147 million in revenue. That's $47 million in an operating shortfall. When everything is added in, the total deficit hit around $78 million in 1 year. And Rutgers is in the Big Ten. This isn't a small conference issue. Rutgers isn't the story. Rutgers is just the example. And here's the part families don't always hear. At Rutgers, nearly $16 million came directly from student fees. That's right, students. Not donors, not TV networks, the students. Rutgers also used state money and general university funds to help cover the gap. This is the hidden athletic tax. And Rutgers is not alone. This is how Power 4 deficits get covered all over the country. So when people talk about paying athletes or expanding budgets, understand this. That bill has been already passed down the line. So now let's zoom out a little bit. And Rutgers is not an outlier. Let's look at the pattern. UCLA ran a $51 million deficit in year one and needed $30 million in campus support. They've been in the red for 6 straight years, totaling over $200 million. University of Arizona reported a $33 million deficit with expenses far outpacing revenue. Cal lost nearly $70 million over 2 years, with Central Campus contributing tens of millions to subsidize athletics. And the University of Washington projected a $30 million cash flow deficit, using loans and university funds to cover realignment costs. Different schools, different conferences, same problem. Expenses are growing faster than revenue. Let's pause for a second, because I want you to look at this from a different angle. Imagine you are a new trustee or board member at one of these universities. You're not the athletic director and you're not the coach. and you're not emotionally tied to anything at this point. You're just there to oversee the institution. Now you sit down and you're handed the financials. You see the athletic department losing 30, 40, $50 million a year after year. And not because of a one-time issue, and not because of a bad season, because the model itself requires constant upgrading. Now ask yourself this. How do you look at that and say, yeah, this makes complete sense? How do you explain that to someone outside of the university? So how do you explain that to parents paying tuition, faculty facing hiring freezes, departments being consolidated, and students paying higher fees? How do you say, we're cutting here, here, and here so we can keep funding athletics at a loss? That's not a sports question. That's a governance question. And that's a position a lot of trustees are in right now. And here's the conversation that's happening behind closed doors. And it's not in public, and it's not going to be in the press. It sounds like this. Why are we funding something that loses money every year? Why are student fees increasing? And why are donors being leaned on harder and harder? And the hardest question of all, what happens if we stop? And that's not a comfortable conversation, but it's a necessary one because universities exist to educate students. Athletics is supposed to support that mission, not compete with it. Now, let's take athletics out for a second and forget all the rivalries and all the traditions and look at this like a business. What business in the real world operates like this? What business runs over budget year after year, covers losses with fees instead of revenue, assumes future money will fix today's problems, and keeps expanding expenses despite losses? There is no small business that could survive this. There's no medium-sized business that could survive this. Even large corporations don't operate this way forever. If a business keeps floating losses on credit, eventually the bill comes due. And at some point, someone says, this doesn't work anymore. And why that's a problem? College athletics has been able to survive like this for one reason. The losses don't show up the same way. They get absorbed by student fees, campus budgets, state support, donors, and just debt. That spreads the pain, it hides the problems, but it doesn't solve it. And when the losses grow faster than the ability to cover them, the pressure builds. And that's where we are right now. This is the context people miss when they talk about schools leaving Division I. University of Hartford didn't wake up one day and just stop liking sports. St. Francis didn't lose interest in competition. And St. Francis of New York didn't want headlines about eliminating athletics. They looked at the numbers. And someone in the room said, we can't justify this anymore. And that's not failure, that's just governance. So here's the question sitting in front of college athletics. If this model doesn't make sense to a board member, if it wouldn't survive in the business world, and if it requires constant subsidies, how long can it continue exactly as it is? And that's not anti-sports. I've played sports my whole life. I played in high school and college. It's my career. That's just accountability. And once you ask that question honestly, the rest of the conversation changes. So why do schools keep doing this? Because college athletics turned into an arms race. More staff, more travel budgets, new facilities, higher salaries, now athlete compensation pressure. And if you slow down, you fall behind competitively. If you speed up, well, as we know, that deficit starts to grow quickly. There's no finish line. And eventually, some schools look at the math and say, we just can't do this anymore. So let's talk about those schools. The University of Hartford moved from Division I to Division III, not because they didn't value athletics, because Division I costs were pulling resources away from academics and campus priorities. St. Francis University of Pennsylvania made that same decision. They reclassified to Division III because Division I costs were rising faster than the institution could support. And then there's St. Francis College of New York. Well, they didn't reclassify. They just totally eliminated Division I sports and athletic sports entirely. That's a school saying, we're done pretending this works for us. And then you have schools like Rider University, which has been very public about financial pressures at the university level, enrollment challenges, budget strains. So ask yourself this: if a university is already under financial stress, how long can it keep funding Division I athletics that lose money every year? And here's the quiet part. Many mid-major Division I programs are trying to chase a Power 4 model that they cannot afford. They add staff, they increase travel, they stretch budgets, all to keep up. But the revenue doesn't scale the same way. And that's where the pressure builds. Student fees rise, budgets get restricted, departments get consolidated, and eventually something breaks. And here's something families aren't talking about yet. And I'm hearing this from my friends at the Division I level, that Division I schools, even though they're allowed to carry 15 scholarships, like in a sport like men's basketball, if they opt in, that doesn't mean that they're going to carry 15 players. Just like the NBA, fewer roster spots can mean lower costs. Fewer players travel, that means fewer hotel rooms, less airfare, less equipment, less daily expenses. In my opinion, roster sizes will shrink across sports. That means fewer opportunities at the Division I level, not more. This is where Division II and III matter more than ever. Most athletes are not Power 4 athletes. Most real opportunities will still live at Division II and Division III schools, where athletics fits inside the educational mission. Development, stability, and balance, that's not a downgrade, and that's reality. This is why families need a plan more than ever. They don't need to chase hype. They don't need to chase big-time schools. And they don't need to chase exposure. A real plan is what they need. One that understands the level that fits the athlete, the financial reality of the school, the roster reality, and the long-term experience. Recruiting is not getting simpler. It's getting tighter and more complicated. Now, if you're just starting the recruiting process, begin with my free college recruiting Jumpstart guide. When you're ready and you want to go a little deeper, grab the Athletic Recruiting Roadmap. It gives you a clear step-by-step framework to build a smart recruiting plan and avoid costly mistakes. Recruiting isn't about chasing dreams. It's about making informed decisions in a system that changes fast. And remember, we're not a recruiting service. We are an educational organization that guides families through the athletic recruiting process. Take care.